So it starts.
Hi, everyone. I can see that people are starting to stream in. So while we're waiting for everyone to join, if you could introduce yourselves in the chat, tell us where you're. Oh, there we go. Arjun's already talking to us from India. Are you an e-resident? Do you have a company in Estonia or a business anywhere? Tell us about that, and we'll start very shortly with the proper webinar. Hello from Spain. Yeah. And oh, hello, Suki in Hong Kong. It must be quite late there in Hong Kong. I hope you're awake. Brazil, I think it must be very early in Brazil as well, or very late.
We have.
Okay, 8 p.m. Not so bad.
Lincoln Lin, 안녕하세요. I am also in Korea.
Okay, close by in Sweden.
Seoul. 잠시.
So I feel like we have a very, very widespread audience today. It seems like we have people on all continents. Sudan has opened up an OU as soon as will open up an OU as soon as approved. Great to hear. We have a few people from Portugal and France and the US. So welcome everyone. I think what we can do now is it's already past the hour, so we can get started with the slides. So I will try and remember how to work Zoom and share my screen now. And we can get started. Hello, everyone. This is the special holiday season session of the live Q&A. Today, we'll be talking about how to become an e-resident, how to start a company in Estonia, who can help you with your business in Estonia, and also we'll cover business banking and a little bit on taxes as well. We'll try and answer as many questions as possible, both orally and in writing, as well as my co-hosts, who I'll introduce in a minute. We also have a few people behind the scenes from my team and also from the Unicount team answering questions in the Q&A tab. So if you do have questions, you can already start putting them there because we have people on it. So today we have a few special guests. We were just talking before we went live that this is the real dream team today because first of all, we have e-Residency's new managing director, Liina. Liina, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Liina. I started at the e-Residency 6 months ago, so I'm the most junior of, I'm the kid here. My background is in both in public and private sector. Private sector experiences only from tech companies, from a telco and then IT companies and product companies, Pipedrive as the most recent one. And my public sector experiences from advising 2 of Estonian prime ministers, but that's already like a few years ago. So, and now I'm here and very happy to be here.
And we also have the managing director of Unicount, one of our oldest standing marketplace member service providers. So Ivar, would you like to introduce yourself and Unicount as well?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Ivar, and I got excited when I first heard about the program in 2014. The program will be 10 years next year, and I was already working with non-residents in a accounting firm. I'm not in the same firm anymore, but technically speaking, I've been working with e-residents ever since they came to Estonian market first months of 2015. So it's kind of 8 years for me working, helping e-residents with accounting and tax and virtual offices.
And Ivar, you can introduce Unicount as well. I've put the slides here.
Well, I have a few slides later on, but if you want, I can do it right away as well. So we started off just offering very easy online formation service because Business Register has an API which enables anyone basically who's licensed in Estonia to build their own website with an integration to the Business Register. So we have utilized it to the max. So now we run the API service in 7 languages, 24 hours a day. So you can log in even nighttime to start a company in Estonia. And the moment the court starts working, next morning, they will either approve your name suggestion or not. Then you can fix it. And later on, we've built much more like features there. So currently, it also has the possibility to sign up for monthly accounting subscriptions, order annual accounts, and any other regular service that e-residents having a limited company in Estonia would need there. So we've been launching more and more features to our dashboard, but we started off as a easiest online formation tool working with the e-resident card. So when the world record is around 15 minutes, I think it's possible to do a company formation application in our system in 3 minutes, basically, if you know what you're doing there.
It's pretty cool. And just so you know, Ivar, you might not recognize these slides because I changed the colors. But so I think you've covered this one here, but I've also put your other one on the costs of services as well. So you can cover that now.
Yeah, I just wanted everyone to see like what's it like if you're looking to start here, because there's quite often a lot of first-time founders among e-residents who have been working freelance or want to start working as freelance. So the number one question is, what's my annual overhead? And here's the rough estimate of what would you be looking at. So if you're just testing the idea and have some invoices you're trying to like get your clients to pay your first year. You would be looking to anything like between like 500 to 1,000 euros for a start. So this is the budget, but I didn't add the e-resident card costs here. So this is additional like 120 if you apply for a card as well.
Thank you, Ivar. So
Happy
we also have 2 extra special guests that weren't actually advertised. So this is a bit of a bonus for everyone. We have 2 real life e-residents here with us, and they're actually 2 of our longest standing e-residents. They've been here with us since 2015. So Ian, why don't you start and introduce yourself, and then Luke as well, you can follow.
Yeah, hey, nice to meet you all. I'm Ian, originally from the US, currently living in South Korea. My background is in software development. I've done a whole bunch of startups over the last 10-ish years, and a number of them with Luke, including the 2 ones that you can see on the slides here.
And I'm Luke. Also really excited to be here and to actually have the chance to work with my business partner together in person. We do this about once a year, and it's always a great time to actually get stuff done in person. But most of the time, I am somewhere very different. I've been in Switzerland for the last 6 years, originally from the US, and right now I'm traveling around a lot digital nomad style. And I became an e-resident simply because I was super excited about a government that was working for people and trying to do something innovative. And then 3 years later, when I relocated to Switzerland, it became something very practical and very useful for me. So excited to answer your questions about how it could be the same for you.
Thank you. And yeah, as everyone said, ask your questions. Use the Q&A tab now. Ask anything. We've got some of like the best people to answer your questions than we probably ever have in webinars. So this is your chance. So please start asking them and we will answer them. The way that this webinar will work is we'll first talk about what is e-residency and how to apply for e-residency. Liina will cover those slides, and then we will stop and answer some questions on these topics. The second part will be on company formation and business banking. We'll stop, answer some questions, and then the third part will be on taxes. And then we'll finally give you some final things to think about doing after this webinar, including a feedback survey, which I always read and make sure that I take into account for future webinars as well. So, okay, I think that's enough for the introduction. So Liina, let's get started with part 1 on what is e-residency.
Yes, hi everyone again. And like I told my fellow webinar hosts here, I feel like I'm at an exam because it's just they are so senior compared to me and know so much more. But Hannah will stop me if I don't cover something that is essential and very, very important. So what is e-residency? It's basically a digital identity issued to foreigners by the government of Estonia. The ID itself is very similar to the ID that all the Estonian citizens and residents have. The only difference is that it does not have a photocopy or photo on it. And e-residents, once they've received their digital ID, they can use this unique ID to digitally access Estonian e-services and make electronic signatures. And the main motivation to apply is to start and run a company in Estonia, and you can do it completely online and from anywhere in the world. And the other very important aspect of this is that you would be joining a community of over 100,000 entrepreneurs from around the world. And while we speak what e-residency is, it's also very important to note what it's not. So e-residency does not give you, it's not a visa. It does not allow you to travel with it. It does not provide you any rights as a citizenship or residence. And if talking about forming and running a company, then Estonia is not a tax haven, and it does not offer you any special special ways to go about taxes. And it also does not give you an automatic right to a business account or personal bank account. If you become an e-resident and you start a business and then apply for a bank account, then the banks will still do their own KYC process. And who can apply, who's eligible? So all private persons around the world can apply. The only people who are not eligible are Estonians or Estonian residents. And also, since the war in Ukraine, Estonia is not issuing e-residency to Russian or Belarusian citizens. So like I mentioned, you need to be applying for e-residency as an individual, as a private person. And once you are granted e-residency, then you can start the company. And here on the picture, you can see Nivina, and she is an e-resident based between Serbia and the US. She founded her recruitment platform called Recruit, and she did it because she wanted her company to be in a safe and trustworthy business environment in the EU. Now, why to become an e-resident? So, as I mentioned, the first and the best reason is to run and to start and run your company, and we found that the fact that we can do it completely online and from anywhere is one of the main reasons that speaks to people, foreigners, to become Estonian e-residents. And since Estonia is part of the EU, becoming an e-resident and starting a company in Estonia would give you access to European single market. And the program is still very unique because basically all of Estonian or 99% of our services are online and digital, and that's why Estonian e-residency is very, very relevant. Another very important aspect is that our digital signatures have been granted the highest trust level of signatures under the European Union eIDAS regulation. So they're considered as strong as the handwritten ones. And as mentioned before, the community aspect is really, really important because you would be in instant contact with entrepreneurs who share a passion for innovation and also business freedom. Oh, and in this picture is Patrick. He is a German e-resident and a digital nomad, and he is currently based in Cyprus. He's a programmer by training, and he runs his coding consultancy business out of Estonia. So how to apply and how long will it take? So first, you would need to apply online, and it usually takes around 30 minutes to an hour. If you get interrupted and you cannot complete it right away, then things can be saved and you can come back to it. You would also need to apply a passport-like photo, but anything else is very similar to any visa application process. Besides filling the form out, you would need to choose the nearest pickup location and pay the application state fee. And the state fee is 100 euros if you choose to pick it up in Estonia, and 120 euros if you choose to pick it up at an Estonian embassy. And you would need to pick it up in person because the Estonian government needs you to provide your fingerprints. So when you once you have applied, your application will be reviewed by Estonian Police and Border Guard. They have the right to, or the statutory time period for reviewing your application is 30 days. It can get longer if they ask additional questions, but usually and typically it takes 20 days to review your application. Police and border guards accepts majority of applications, over 90%. And once they have granted you this e-residency, then they will notify you by email that your e-residency ID card is on its way. Now, sending the kits that comes with the card and also the card reader, that takes 2 to 5 weeks, depending on where you chose to pick it up from. And once the kit is at the specific location, you will again be notified by email. And from most of the embassies, you can just go and collect them, but some embassies require that you would book beforehand, like book the time, schedule a time to pick it up. So altogether, the process might take from 3 weeks up until 8 weeks. And here's an overview of the pickup points that we have. We have over 40 locations worldwide, but as you can see on the map here, most of the dots are in Europe. So we have a few blind spots, especially when it comes to Africa or the Americas, also Asia. But we're trying to get better there in that department and get more pickup locations on the map. We do have limited number of embassies worldwide because Estonia is very small. And maybe another aspect here is that you can change your pickup location if you decide to pick it up from any other country, but then you would need to pay a little bit extra. And it's also important that you see what kind of travel requirements you need to pick it up beforehand. And maybe it's also good to pay in mind that if you for some reason you don't pick your kit up within 6 months, it will get sent back to Estonia, and basically it's not valid anymore. So be quick to pick it up.
Thank you, Liina. So we do have a couple of questions on these topics. The first one is, do you have a pickup point in Brazil? And if not, how will I have access to the kit? So unfortunately, we don't. Liina, maybe I'll let you answer.
No, it's yeah. We used to, and then we're working on it, and we might again, no promises, but we would like there to be like a consular mission done, but that's a long shot, and we don't know exactly if it's going to happen or when. So unfortunately, currently, I think the closest would be New York.
And yeah, so Solange is asking, do you expect to add any pickup locations in LATAM during 2024? So I think you answered that question as well, which is we're trying.
Another one I noticed that's not in the Q&A, but in the chat, Lincoln was asking about if it's possible to change the pickup location because he sent us to Singapore, but he's living in Seoul. I think the answer for that is yes, right?
It is, yes, you can change it. There will be a fee though. So just be prepared that you can do that. I think the best way to do it is to contact the embassy where you originally said that you were going to pick it up, and they can organize that. And Andres is also asking, can I pick it up in Tallinn? Yes, of course you can. There are actually, I think, 2 police officers in Tallinn that hand out the kits. Just choose Tallinn as your chosen pickup location in your application form. And yeah, welcome. And the good thing about that is you don't have to pay the €20 sending fee as well. So it's just €100 if you pick it up in Tallinn. Peter is asking, can you schedule an appointment to pick up the kit? As Liina mentioned, some embassies do require this, some don't. So I think the best thing to do is when you get the email saying that your card is ready to pick up, ask them what their preference is. Okay, so I think that oh yes, so Josh is asking, do I need to pick it up in person? Yes, you do. This is very important. You need to authenticate your person in front of an Estonian representative. You also need to give your fingerprints. So no, we don't accept a person like a proxy to come in and do it for you. And we also can't send the card by post as well because of that reason. Okay. Hasib, is there any pickup location in UAE? Yes, there is one in Abu Dhabi. There's an Estonian embassy in Abu Dhabi. So that should answer that question. And finally, I have not picked up my card since I got confirmation of my e-Residency a few years ago. What should I do? So after 6 months, if your card has not been picked up, the application is cancelled and the card is destroyed. So you will actually need to apply again if you want to become an e-resident and get your card. Okay, so let's move on to the second part of the webinar, which is all about business. And I will take you through a few slides here. So the first slide is the why. Why do business in Estonia? And I'm going to cover a few very short points, but I think the best people to answer these questions are actually Ivar, Ian, and Luke. So e-Residency has done a lot of surveying and interviews with our community, and we've come up with 4 value propositions that have been told by them to us as the reasons to start a business in Estonia. For some reason I can't, there it is. So the first one is ease. It's really easy to start, run, and grow your business in Estonia. And that's thanks to the digital ID. That's thanks to the seamless e-services that Estonia offers, and also thanks to the digital signatures, which we've discussed. The second reason is all around trust. Estonia has a very safe and secure infrastructure when it comes to its digital services. And so people tell us that they're very confident in, you know, having their data and their company in Estonia because of this fact. The third is around opportunities. I'm not going to cover this too much because I think this is better for you guys to talk about. But Estonia is well regarded by investors, by funders. So there are a lot of opportunities here to grow your business and to scale. There are a lot of accelerators and incubators, and also the service providers there to help you. And finally, we've talked about this several times already, so I'm not going to go on about it too long, but there's the community aspect as well. 28,000 plus companies have been established by e-residents. So that's quite a lot of people you can learn from, possible clients, possible partners. Maybe I will turn it to Luke and Ian first for some of your reasons. Do these resonate with you? Do you have anything to add, or did you want to emphasize any of these points?
Yeah, I'll go in reverse order here and talk about the joining a global network of entrepreneurs, because that's something that I'm really passionate about. E-residency tends to attract a lot of people who are globally minded in the way that they do business and live their lives. Yeah, there's a lot of digital nomads, and if that's you, then there's definitely a huge community of digital nomads too. But even beyond that, every e-resident that I've talked to likes to think big. They're often doing business in multiple places. They're often traveling around the world. And the value proposition of e-residency is that it lets you do all that very easily. And it also makes a really great bunch of interesting people to talk to bounce ideas off of that align with you on a value proposition side. So I was instrumental in creating a network of e-residents called Erika. I'll put a link in the chat later, and I guess on YouTube and stuff. And basically, we're trying to connect all of the e-residents who are actually doing business to each other. And through that, I've actually met several people that have become friends, like Patrick, who was in the slides earlier. I met him in Estonia back in, it was either 2017 or 2018, I forget. Luke has met him a couple different times around the world. Another guy named Daniel, Germany resident, that our companies have done business with each other to collaborate on projects. So this isn't just a marketing talking point, like it's actually real. So come and find us and yeah, join the community.
I think I just add to that, like, not only have we had the chance to do business together, we've also had the chance to do investments into other e-resident companies. We just made our first investment in another e-resident and their company, which is exciting to see fairly small scale entrepreneurs being able to participate with each other in these opportunities. And I'm actually going to highlight the first one. It's because it's easy to forget how easy it is to do business in Estonia, because I do it all the time. And then sometimes I have to go do paperwork for my US company. And I spend a day doing bookkeeping and trying to do all these things that are just done for me very easily and efficiently and affordably in Estonia. And I remember just how easy it is to run a business in Estonia. And then another thing I really like about just the experience is that whenever you deal with someone official, someone in government, it's, in my experience, has always been a posture from them of how can we help you succeed? To the extent of, I was in Tallinn a couple of weeks ago, and there's, I don't remember what I was seeing this mostly online or in Tallinn itself, but people were basically asking the question, how can we change regulation to make something possible for a new business? And that kind of thinking is all over the whole ecosystem when it comes to operating your business. And that just makes it so much easier instead of going to government offices and getting the answer, well, you're in the wrong office, so you need to go over here, and we don't want to help you because even though we could answer this question, which is my experience everywhere else in the world. So just put those two things together of having a network of entrepreneurs that think globally and making it so easy to do business and not think about operating a business, but actually running it. It makes my life a lot easier.
Thank you very much, guys. And they're being very humble, but Luke and Ian are actually official Luke is an envoy and Ian is a community leader. They're officially contracted by us to help spread the word. And this is because they've put in so many years being engaged with e-Residency and with the community. And, you know, they, along with, I think, a dozen other e-residents as well, we wanted to recognize this. So earlier this year, we launched this Envoy Spokespeople program. And so they are really, really the best people to be talking about the ways to get involved in Estonia, the Estonian business environment. Ivar, maybe you would like to add a couple of things from a. Oh, sorry, go on.
We are contracted, but we are not paid.
Well,
we are not paid to say these things.
Well, we've given you some nice sweaters, right?
Yeah, we got something around here, I think. Yeah.
Ivar, maybe you would add something from a service provider perspective, and from an Estonian business person's perspective as well.
Well, e-residency is something which is very hard to understand from Estonian business perspective, because all the things are perceived as normal here. So we don't go to government offices to get any stamps or paperwork done. We don't even want to go to a bank for a meeting with a bank clerk. And Estonians are so used to having public services online, maybe not in their mobile devices yet, like we cannot vote online yet, but we don't even go to the polling stations for electing our parliament. So it means like from Estonian perspective, we perceive everything that e-residency is as normal. So 2014, there was just enough sense in some politicians to accept the idea that Estonian public and private services should be available to foreigners as well, even if they have no ground to be residents in Estonia. So the name e-residency is sometimes misleading, because technically you're just getting access to our online systems without any right to residence in Estonia. And of course, like it's not a gateway to get into Europe, but definitely you can still run the business here if you're approved for e-residency and you find a financial service provider who's willing to underwrite your business, because it's not always the case. So for us, it's very normal that everything you do is online, and you don't really wait for the mailman like you do in France or even the UK, where you're just waiting for some paper to come in. Even though UK is doing some good steps with their online tax office stuff as well, like HMRC is going online as well, and UK is doing pretty well recently. But still, like in Estonia, a company owner never really waits for a mailman unless it's a bank card, which is like not coming in time, because banks don't really want to see you in Estonia as well, so they only send you cards to your office address.
Yes, this is true. So let's talk about. Sorry, did someone want to add something? Okay.
I would also add, maybe this isn't as appreciated in Estonia either, but it goes both ways. Like, Estonians view this as like, I just use the ID card and it like works for everything. But for the e-residents, if you've ever done business in another country and you're not like from there, then it can often feel like you're kind of like a second class, like you've got like, you know, this different status, and it's like really difficult to get the information and everything. But if you're looking to do business in Europe and you're not from Europe, like us, for example, then in Estonia, everything is available in English, and with your e-residency card, you have access. And it's not like, oh, this is an e-residence account, like I'm not gonna, you know, show him this like secret option or something like that. You're the same. Your card, your signature is just as good as everyone else's, and yeah, and that's like super refreshing and makes things really easy.
Entrepreneurship is in the blood of Estonians, I think. It's in the DNA.
Talk about Latitude 59 later. I don't want to derail your presentation, but yeah.
No, let's talk about that later, because I think we should get to the process. So I'm gonna just cover very briefly on this slide the process of company registration and what you need to think about. Hopefully we've convinced you to do this. So this is you'll need to write this down. So once you've applied for e-residency and you've got your digital ID in your hand, you're ready to start a company. So the first thing we suggest is getting the help of a service provider. This is especially so if it's the first time running a business or running a business in Estonia. They will help you with a number of things, which I'll tell you all about on the next slide. And then you can log into the e-business register or use an API formation service like the one Ivar and Unicount have to register your company. The hardest thing about that, I think, is coming up with a name and also making sure you choose the right area of activity, because there's a really long list of European codes that you need to choose from. But don't worry too much, because it's mostly for statistics purposes, and when you do your annual report after a year, you can correct it on an annual basis. So don't worry too much about that. Just try and choose the one that's closest to what you do. Okay, so some companies will need a license or a notice of economic activity. It's very limited areas of activity. So we're talking about typical business cases like financial services, including crypto, construction, education, travel, tourism and travel services, these types of things. Insurance is another one. So if you operate in any of those areas, maybe double check whether you need to do something extra for your company before you can operate. But for the vast majority of e-residents who are doing consulting, IT programming, marketing, all sorts of technology things, e-commerce as well, you won't need a license. And finally, business banking. And we're going to cover this in a couple of slides. So this is something that we will cover. I can see already there's many questions on this topic. So firstly, who can help you run your business? e-Residency has created a marketplace on our website. It's a business directory of service providers like Unicount, for example. And you can go on here and find over 129 expert business service providers. The only service that you probably will need is a local contact person and legal address in Estonia. This is for companies which have a foreign management board address. And because many of you live in different countries, this is probably something that you need to think about. The contact person is not like a director, a shadow director, a non-executive director. They don't have any responsibility or liability for your company. They're purely a mailbox and messenger service. But they do need to have a certain type of license to provide the service, or be from a certain profession, a notary, an accountant, a chartered accountant, or a lawyer, these types of professions. So that's something that you might need to look into. And then you can also find many other service providers for these types of things: company formation, accounting, legal and tax consulting, marketing, recruitment, etc. I've done a tour of the marketplace where I go through and demo all the features. We have lots of features on there, like filters, like comparisons, like reviews and ratings. And I go through and help you figure out how to find business banking partners, tax consultants, country tax advisors in your own countries, these types of things. So I recommend that if you want to use the marketplace, watch the video, because it will give you a bit of a head start in being able to use it. Ivar, did you want to add anything from your perspective here as a marketplace member?
Yeah, like actually this year, the Estonian commercial code changed. So regarding the contact person, you would only actually need it if you want to show your Estonian company having a legal address in another country. So it's quite a wild concept, and we were surprised that the Ministry of Justice actually submitted this type of change in the law to the parliament, but parliament accepted it. And now an Estonian limited company can have an address in Germany, France, everywhere in the world. But if you really want to have an address in another country, you need to appoint that authorized contact person who's basically licensed to do that. And you would definitely have some tax risks involved if you publicly claim that you're actually having a business in another country. So obviously you should be a tax resident of that country with that company then.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about costs, because this is generally a question. So the application fee, as we've covered already, 100 to 120 euros. To register a private limited company known as an OÜ in Estonia, it's 265 euros. And then to get the virtual office contact person service, we typically see a range of about 200 to 400 euros per year, depending on the service provider, depending on the size of your company, these types of things. And for accounting, we typically see this starting around 50 euros per month. Accounting is not mandatory, but we do recommend it, especially in the first year, because you want to get to know the bookkeeping processes and rules of a new country. But if you're very good at accounting, this is something that you can do on your own. That's no problem. When you're budgeting to start a company in Estonia, also think about other costs. So there's the travel cost to your pickup point that you might need to incur, fees for any extra services, for example, from the marketplace, business banking fees, license fees, if that's something that you need. And so just back of the envelope calculations, as we say, for the first year, expect to pay up from 565 euros. If you're doing it yourself, and what I mean by that is you have the virtual office contact person helping you, but you do the accounting on yourself. Or if you get accounting support, it's upwards of 1,265 euros per year. This is for the first year, and this is a little bit more for some of these other costs that I mentioned. And I mentioned the OU. So this is the private limited company in Estonia. It's the most popular business form, not just for e-residents. I mean, I think 99% of e-residents start this type of company, but also for Estonians as well. Vast majority of Estonians have a company. This is something that I learned when I moved here. If you don't have a company, people kind of look at you weirdly. So I've started one myself, and I'm pretty sure that every Estonian on this call has one too. For the OU, the minimum share capital starts at €1 per shareholder. It used to be the minimum was 2,500, but they abolished that. Was it the beginning of this year, Ivar, or last year? And so now, yeah, it's essentially nil, the share capital, but you will need to confirm when you register your company that you have made this small contribution.
It was 1st of February,
February.
when law changed. It used to be 2,500 euros as a minimum share capital, which you needed to pay not while you registered, but before you distribute the dividends. But now you can start a company with 1 cent, and you just need to find a business banking service provider that enables you to deposit this 1 cent. Legally, you should do it before registration, but it's impossible if you're not a resident in Estonia. So e-residents just do it after the registration.
Thank you. Yeah. So the advantages of the OU are that you have limited shareholder liability, and the registration process is very easy. So in these 2 slides here, I'm going to talk a bit about business banking. The first thing to say is that e-residents do not have to operate their business in Estonia with a traditional Estonian brick and mortar bank account. The law allows you to use a fintech account or a neobank account, online banking essentially. So, and this is by far from what we've observed in the e-residency team, this is by far the most popular option for e-residents, and also it works fine, particularly in your first couple of years of operation while you're building up your company. So this is the first option: payment institutions and fintechs located in the European Economic Area. They can be opened entirely online. There's a huge choice, which I'll show in the next slide. The disadvantage, though, is that they generally don't provide business loans. I think some of them are starting to look into this. I think, for example, Revolut now has loan options, but generally speaking, they don't do this. So if you're looking for a credit institution, you'll need to go to a traditional bank.
Yeah, Revolut can do that because they have a banking license from Lithuania, so they would be able to do it under the Lithuanian license.
There you go. There we go. So yeah, there are, it's coming. The revolution is coming. The second option is to get an account with a traditional bank in any European country. So if you already have a business in another country in the EU, or you already have a very good client relationship with a bank, you might want to approach them to see if they will open an account for your Estonian business. this is doable, and we know that it happens. There are many e-residents who choose this option, and it works just fine. So this is also a good option if you are, particularly if you're a resident in the European Union or European Economic Area. The third option are traditional banks in Estonia, and you might think, why has she put this as the third option? Well, it's because this is actually quite a difficult thing to get. It takes a couple of years. It takes a fairly mature business with a lot of transactions. And also you need to convince the bank that your company has a strong connection to Estonia. And what does this mean? It means that at least 50% of your shareholders, team, assets, clients, or suppliers are in Estonia. And that doesn't include your accountant or your virtual office representative, for example. So it's quite a tough bar to get. The other disadvantage is that you need to make a personal visit to the bank to authenticate your identity. So you can do a pre-application online, usually, for the 2 banks that are on the e-Residency marketplace. But once, and they'll tell you by email whether you have been approved or not. If you're approved, they'll ask you to come to Estonia and actually go into the office and authenticate yourself. So here on this slide, I've put the list of banks and fintechs that we recommend currently for e-residents. The gray shaded are 2 Estonian banks that I just mentioned. And then the ones in blue are all fintechs. You can see here which country their IBAN is based in. So Airwallex and WeTrust have Estonian IBANs. Juni has a Danish or British, and ConnectPay, PayHawk, Lithuania, Paysera, Latvia, and Genome also Lithuania. They all the fintechs allow you to apply online, and they all provide some form of debit card for your business, whether it's Visa, MasterCard, online, or physical card. All the banks and fintechs make international payments. So for a cross-border business that e-residents have, that won't be a problem. But as I mentioned, only the banks really provide business loans. And I've also listed here at the bottom of the slide some of the payment gateways. So if you're wanting to sell goods online, either through a marketplace or through your own merchant shop on your website, check out some of these options that are on the e-Residency marketplace as well. So we've talked a bit about, we've compared already the US quite a lot, poor US. But on this slide, I won't go through every single detail, but you will get a copy of these slides after the webinar. Tomorrow, you'll get a link to our website where you can download them, so you can have a look at this slide more in detail on your own thing. There are just a couple of things that I want to point out. So this slide is comparing the experience of foreigners opening a country in these countries. So the first thing I want to talk about is the time to register a business. Estonia is by far the shortest. 2 hours is the average of what the e-business register has told us a company is registered, essentially. For most people, it will take a day. As Ivar mentioned, if you do it late at night, it won't be registered until the next day. So 24 hours, say. But if you did it in the morning, you can probably assume that your company will be registered that day, on a business day, I should say. Compare that to some of the other countries. The UK is probably the closest, and Singapore as well, which are both quite digital countries. But the rest of the countries are a little less. The next thing I wanted to point out are what you need to create a company as a foreigner. In Estonia, you just need e-Residency. In the US, you definitely need an authorized agent if you're a foreigner. In Ireland, you actually need a resident director of the European Economic Area. So you can't just start a company on your own. You will need a local, basically, if you're from outside of Europe. UK is similar to Estonia. There you need a registered address, which you can usually get through a company office. So it's kind of similar to the contact person in a way that we have in Estonia. Singapore, you need a local director or a visa and to actually live there, and which is very similar in Portugal as well, an agent or a visa. The e-services thing, Estonia has definitely got, I think, the most like full list of e-services and the easiest user experience, I would say. But the UK and Singapore are definitely catching up if you start a company there. In US, in Delaware, Ireland, and Portugal, I think they say on their websites that they're digital, but when you actually look into it, it's digital means printing, signing, scanning, emailing. I don't know, Ian, you're nodding. Does that sound right?
Yeah, we were joking for in the like pre-call session about not joking, like we were laughing at how in countries like the US and even Switzerland, then a digital signature means you scan a PDF or you receive it and you like slap your signature in there. Either you print it out and sign it, or take a picture, or you just do it directly in like the Mac preview app or Adobe Sign or something. And they call it a digital signature, and there's no way that they could actually verify that you really did that. But yeah, that's our idea of digital. Yeah.
And finally, I'll point out the hours to file tax returns. So the Estonian Estonia, our Enterprise Estonia, our parent company or parent foundation, a few years ago did some research about how long it took for Estonian business people to file taxes, and the average is 50 hours per year. And we've worked together with PricewaterhouseCoopers to estimate what it would take in these other countries, and you can see that they're much longer, particularly in the US and the UK and Portugal if you have a bigger company. Ivar, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that maybe I can discuss Dubai options as well, because Dubai also offers some solutions to non-residents, but the major difference is that they actually grant you a residence as well if you're going there to register a company. It's just that they have quite a high fee. So it means like if money is not a problem and you're really looking to have another residence and you would appreciate having a residence in Dubai, you can go and have a company there. So registration for one shareholder is like $7,500, I think, and for two shareholders it would be $15,000. So it means like if money is not an issue in Estonia, e-residency doesn't give you any residency rights, but in Dubai you can have a limited company, and also the banks there would give you a business banking account if you have a residence permit. So if you're looking for residence permits, you can look into Dubai companies.
Thank you, Ivar. That's really helpful. And so if you want to look more into these comparisons on the blog, the e-Residency blog, we've put many articles up comparing Estonia with each of these countries. And then we've also done some multi-country comparisons on starting, running, growing, and taxes as well. So you can do a lot of reading if you are so inclined to compare options. So before we go to a few questions, and I am aware that we're nearly at the hour, so we are going a little bit longer, but I don't think it matters because we have I think all the content that we're providing everyone is very helpful. So we do have a reimbursement campaign ongoing for Ukrainian citizens who want to start a business in Estonia as an e-resident. So if you apply for e-residency and register a company in Estonia, the e-residency program will cover your application fee, and eligible business service providers who you can find on the marketplace will cover the company registration fee. So it's a small thing, but we hope that it does in some way helps Ukrainian entrepreneurs who are looking for maybe a slightly more stable foothold in the EU at the moment. We actually had a discussion yesterday in our team. That there are some Ukrainians who really want to be doing their business still in Ukraine, but they can't because of, for example, travel restrictions, these kinds of things. So the no-fly zone and everything. So they're looking at Estonia as an option while the war is ongoing, unfortunately. So if you are Ukrainian, have a look at this campaign. You can find details on our website. So let's have a look in the QA. I can see that Katrina and Mart have been very, very busy answering questions. So there's actually no open questions at the moment. So this is my call to everyone to ask more questions so that we can answer them. But in the meantime, maybe Ivar, you have your hand up again, or just didn't take it down? Sorry.
I didn't take it down, but because I booked time until like let's say 3:45, I could still like go around with Q&A as long as you want me to.
Okay. So I think I've booked our time until like maybe 15:15. So we've probably got about 20 minutes to go. Luke and Ian, do you need to leave, or are you okay?
I think we're good.
Okay. And you have your hand up for...
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing on the tax filing thing, just like personal experience of having an Estonian company for like 5 years or something now. I think you said like 50 hours or something. That is in my experience even quite a high estimate for what a typical e-residency company would have to do, particularly if you have done the monthly accounting throughout the year. And as you said, like that starts from like 50 euros or something a month. And that's definitely worth it, because then at the end of the year, then your taxes are extremely easy to file. And it just takes, you personally, it only takes a couple minutes to go through everything, check and confirm it, and make sure that the accountant did everything correctly.
Maybe that's actually quite a good thing to talk about just for a minute or two. What are the reporting requirements that you need to do if you're an Estonian company?
The annual report's the main one. I think Ivar could explain if there are some other ones, but from our perspective, the annual report is the main one. And I guess the monthly VAT, if you're registered for the value-added tax, then you do need to have a report every month. And in that case, you will want a monthly accountant to handle all that for you, most likely.
It's not only about the VAT, it's also about the question: do you have any directors or employees who get the monthly payments? So no matter if it's director's fee or it's salary, you would still need to tell the tax office the next calendar month. So it means like for having employees, directors on director's fee, we would still always recommend to have a local accountant to do the tax. Technically, e-residents can do anything that a board member can do in Estonia normally. But if you're not really qualified to do taxes in Estonia, we never really advise you to do that. Even though Unicount historically as well has published the do-it-yourself like manual for submitting annual accounts, and we've been also encouraging Estonian Business Register to enable like one-click dormant account submission, because today there is no like easy track there to submit dormant accounts if you did nothing. You would still have to go with a normal like micro companies accounts process with all the extras that are there besides your balance sheet and profit and loss statement.
Thank you. So while we were talking, we had a couple of good questions come in. Firstly, is it necessary to have some software for issuing invoices, or how are they issued? So there is actually a free software license that you can get called e-Financials in your first year of having an Estonian company. But then there are multiple other software tools that you can use. So I think the best thing to do is, if you have an accountant, ask them what tool they use, what's easiest for them, and then use that one. But yeah, if you're a solopreneur and this is your first thing and you want to do the accounting yourself, you want to do everything yourself, I recommend using the free software, at least for the first year. And okay, let's get to taxes, because I can see someone, what about taxes? So let's get to taxes. So the first thing to say is that taxes is extremely complex on the international stage. This is because every single country legislates, regulates taxes themselves. And in some countries, it's even done not just at the national level, but at the regional level. Switzerland, I'm looking at you. So, it is complicated when you start adding other countries into the mix. There's treaties between the countries that try and help with a little bit of this stuff. Sometimes it makes it easier. Sometimes it makes it even more complicated. So the best thing I would recommend before we even go into the details is think about your structure, think about your company structure, and talk to someone like a tax accountant or a tax lawyer who knows these things and can help you structure your business in a way where you optimize your tax obligations around the world. So on this slide, I'm going to talk about the different types of taxes to be aware of. The first is personal taxes. As an e-resident, as Liina said right at the beginning, tax residency is not affected by e-residency. It doesn't exempt you from your tax residency or from where you live. So generally speaking, you will continue paying taxes as you were before in your country of tax residence. The second taxes to be aware of are company taxes, corporate income taxes, these types of things. For your company, we're going to talk a bit more about this in the next slide, but the general thing is where your company is tax resident, you will declare your taxes. If it has a permanent establishment in another country, you may also need to declare foreign tax liabilities there as well. Sorry, foreign tax income there as well. The third type is social tax, which in some countries is called superannuation, in others is called pensions. These are also include payroll taxes for any employees you have in your company. And these will always be declared where the employees are located and registered. Some countries require you to register employees like with the government so that they know they're getting the right pensions and everything, and the contributions are going to the government. Finally, VAT. So VAT, I'm talking about here VAT in Europe, and particularly in Estonia. In other countries, it will differ. So you always need to think about where you're selling goods, who you're selling them to. If you're selling them to other businesses, it's unlikely you'll need to pay VAT. You may need to get it back, declare it back, but you probably don't need to pay it. But with if you're selling to consumers, they will need to pay VAT on the goods, generally speaking. In Europe, they are trying to streamline VAT because every single European country has a different VAT framework, has a different rate of VAT, and even process in some cases. So the European Union is trying to streamline it through a few schemes, which I'll talk about now. So this is a very, very simplified sort of rule of thumb to think about. But if you're an online seller in Europe, you can declare VAT in the EU country where you're VAT registered. And that's thanks to these one-stop shop, import one-stop shop schemes. But this is subject to thresholds. So for each of those, there is a maximum. If you go over that maximum, you'll need to actually then declare in the country of supply. A little bit complicated, but talk to a tax lawyer if this is something that you need to think about. Okay, so let's talk about company taxes a bit more. So the general rule is that an Estonian company is registered as a tax resident in Estonia by the Estonian Tax and Customs Board when it's established. But if your company is also considered a tax resident or your activities create a permanent establishment in another country, your company may also have tax liabilities there. So what activities could create a permanent establishment? This is if you have an office in another country and you do all your work there. So, and you make board decisions, hold board meetings, do all your client work that you do there. If you have employees in that country, that's another activity. If you have intellectual property or assets like vehicles or office supplies, if they are registered in that country, that will also could create a permanent establishment. There are many other things that a tax office will consider in different countries. So you do need to think about those types of things when you are running a cross-border business, because it will create dual tax residency. And e-residency does not exempt your company from this. So just because you have e-residency in Estonia doesn't mean that you pay all your taxes in Estonia. The good thing is that Estonia has signed treaties with over 60 countries to avoid double taxation. So dividends distributed in Estonia, I'll talk a little bit about this in the next slide, because the Estonian tax system is slightly different from other countries. May be exempted in full from corporate income tax if the Estonian Tax and Customs Board says, yes, you should be paying your taxes in Germany or Spain, wherever you are. So because of this, you should not be double taxed, but you should definitely talk to a professional for advice on your specific situation, because every single situation will be different. It really depends on your own personal circumstances. So now that I've sort of told you the bad news, I'm going to go to the good news, which is that Estonia has very minimal tax regulation and low rates, and is considered the most competitive tax code in the world, and has been for 10 years. As I said, Estonia's system is a little bit different from other countries. So there's no annual corporate income tax like you would pay in most other countries. Rather, if you reinvest profits into your company, you don't pay taxes on those profits. It's only once you start distributing them in the form of dividends, for example, that you will pay corporate tax of 20% net. This is going up in 2025 to 22%, just be aware. VAT in Estonia is 20%. This is going up to 22% in 2024. But to be honest, for most e-residents, this rate is not something that you'll need to worry about, because you probably won't be selling to consumers in Estonia. You need to look at the rates of where you're selling to in that country to declare that VAT. In Estonia, mandatory registration for VAT is over 40,000 euros per year. But a lot of people actually just register from the very beginning. It just makes things a little bit easier and means that you get into the habit of doing your declarations every month, even if you have none. And as I said in the previous slide, one-stop shop and import one-stop shop regimes in the EU have been brought in by the EU to simplify VAT procedures. And they're continuing to try and simplify these. They're iterating it very slowly. So hopefully someday you can do it all in one place. In Estonia, taxes can be declared and paid online. We've talked about this already. And this maybe sounds a little bit kitsch, but actually it's perfectly true. The Estonian Tax and Customs Board is extremely friendly, and they will help you in a very timely manner. So Ian, I can see you've got a very excited hand up on this point, and then Ivar,
I want to let Ivar go first because he had his up first, but then I'll jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had a quick note on the taxes going up in 25. So we see some wobbling in the current coalition about the 2% tax raise in dividend tax and personal income tax from 20% to 22%. So I wouldn't be surprised if they actually change it, even though it's just a political game nowadays. So let's see. Estonia has traditionally been very conservative on changing taxes. So the last time the taxes were changed was actually 2009, when we had this great financial crisis where VAT went up from 18% to 20%, and the income tax actually didn't go up, but the reductions were dismissed.
Ian.
And then my funny story is that line at the end is actually true. It was before I actually incorporated my company in Estonia, so it must have been 2016 or 17. I read a blog post from one of the really early e-residents before me even, who had given his experience about walking into the tax office to ask them some question, and they actually helped him out. And I was like, come on, get out of here, man. This is that's nuts. That can't be true. And so I'm an American. I don't understand all this, value-added tax and stuff. So I just walked into the tax office. I found the right bus route and everything, and paid €1 or $2 or whatever it was for the bus route. Went over to the tax office and walked in and just asked them to explain the value-added tax I'm 5. And they didn't entirely succeed, because it was these they were much older ladies, and they didn't speak English very well, but they tried so hard, and they even gave me a phone number of their coworker who I could call that spoke English well later, and they wrote down some links and stuff to check out. So like, yeah, they are actually one of the friendliest tax authorities in the world, by far the friendliest that I've interacted with, and they'll respond to your emails, or if you walk in, then tell them that you heard that yeah, e-residents can just walk in here, and it's like friendliest government you'll ever be in if you're from another country. It's nuts.
And I have to add that that's not just the tax office, that's
Yeah.
also the police and border guard, that's also the land registry office. It's every office I've talked to actually
The
answers my
e-residency office.
questions. And the e-residency office is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they actually also, the Estonian Tax Board also have a dedicated email for non-resident taxpayers. And before I moved to Estonia, I was living in Switzerland before, and so I emailed them just about some pension type issues. And they say, I think the email you get back, the automatic email says, we'll answer your question within 7 days or something. Well, I had an answer within 2 hours. So they're very quick. They're very, very, very quick, and they always try to help as well. So you might be wondering why I went through all these like great, wonderful things about the Estonian tax system when 2 slides before I was like, well, you may not pay taxes here. So if you want to pay taxes in Estonia for your company, there are some things that you can do. And these are very related to those activities I talked about, the permanent establishment activities I talked about. So some things you can do in Estonia to have a better chance or at least have a better argument to pay taxes for your company here are to rent an office, hire employees, hold board meetings in Estonia, register assets and IP or intellectual property in Estonia, become a digital nomad, or relocate. And if you relocate, then you get other benefits as well. You pay personal tax here, which is a flat 20% for everyone. And you also will, Ivar, remind me of the point you wanted to make with this one. It was that you don't pay tax on dividends.
Yeah, the Estonian system is very different because first, there's no annual corporate income tax. You only pay corporation tax on distributing dividends. But the fun part is that whenever you get the dividends distributed by your Estonian company to you as a natural person shareholder, there's no extra tax on capital gains. So it means like in most European countries, the moment you get dividends from your company, you would still pay capital gains tax as a personal income tax, but not in Estonia. So it means that whatever tax your company paid when distributing dividends, that's it. You're not taxed again as a private person.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about these things, you can have a look on our website at this link. We've covered these in detail. On the relocation point, this is obviously subject to making sure you can have the right to move to Estonia, whether you have a visa or a Schengen right or some kind of work or business permit. So e-residency doesn't necessarily help you with that. You'll need to go through the proper channels to relocate. And I just wanted to point out on this slide in the image, the guy in the middle, Chris Shirley, is a UK e-resident. And he actually has moved to Estonia and been living here for a couple of years now, running his business House of Hiatus. And he's also an e-residency spokesperson, Envoy, as well. So, Liina, I'm conscious you've been very quiet. So have you had a chance to look in the Q&A tab?
Yes, I'm just, the moment I think that I will start answering, someone else is already answering. So like you said, the dream team in this call, definitely. And I think it's been very interesting for me to also hear Ian, I've never met, but Luke, I've met. So it's, and Ivar also, thank you for contributing, and your colleague there.
Thanks, Liina. So I can see that we've actually pretty much answered most of the questions. I think someone has asked about if you relocate, you're not an e-resident anymore. Well, technically speaking, this is true because you would get a resident card or a resident ID, but we have this sort of saying that once you're an e-resident, you're always an e-resident. And I am one of those people. I was an e-resident before I moved to Estonia myself. So yes, technically speaking, sure. But I think ideologically, no, you're always an e-resident. So Alfonso is asking about creating a company with 3 founders. Do the 3 founders need e-residency or just one? Yes, because e-residency is an individual right that's applied to you. You'll all need to get it. Technically speaking, you could do it where, you know, without e-residency, but then you would need to go to a notary and you probably need to travel to Estonia to set up the business. So it would be much easier for you all to apply, get e-residency, and then set up your business. And actually, this brings up a really, really good, another advantage of the Estonian system, which I think is kind of obvious because we have Ian and Luke here, but if you're founders living, you know, all over the world and you want to co-found a company, e-residency does make that possible and very easy to do. Ivar, you have your hand up.
Muted.
Because it's my topic. Actually, you can register the company with one e-resident as a board member as well, and later you just issue shares to your partners without them being e-residents. So it's technically possible to have them be shareholders without e-residence. It's just that if you're a board member, meaning director, it's nearly impossible to do everything that a director should and must do in Estonia without the e-resident card, because Estonians are building their service around online only. So it means like you as a board member are very, very much limited, and you can't really do the things like even simple stuff like submitting annual accounts if you don't have the e-resident card. So it means like if they're not going to be directors, you can just issue shares to them after you've registered the company. So it's actually explained on our website as well how to issue shares to your partners or investors without them having e-resident cards.
Yeah, and I just want to also add here, Ivar mentioned his website. Unicount has a really, really great blog with lots of articles and really practical information. So I recommend having a look on there. They've got some super helpful articles that are directly for e-residents. So definitely have a look on their website and read those. Finally, let's end with this final question of Henrik's, and then we can close. And he's talking about investing through your Estonian company. Does anyone want to tackle this? I think Ian, I think maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah, we actually did a whole webinar as Erika last month, or no, it's a couple weeks ago. And we actually talked about this in like a panel discussion with one of the other service providers, Silva Hunt, another business partner of mine. Federico has a background in wealth management, and we talk about a lot of these topics. I'll try and give like the quick, the high level summary though, as the possibilities that you get as a e-resident. If you set up an Estonian company, you can open a brokerage account with someone like Interactive Brokers to invest in public markets, and that will give you access to markets everywhere in the world. You can invest locally in Tallinn using the Tallinn Stock Exchange, or you can invest in the US or wherever you want. Basically, they have access to almost everything. So public markets, you have options there. As Luke was saying a little bit ago, you can also invest very easily into Estonian private companies. You can invest into someone else's OU, and you can sign all the documents electronically. You can submit everything to the business register, and make the transfers online and everything. So that's also a very easy process. And then there's of course a bunch of like new fintechs and stuff that are coming up that are trying to make it even easier to access things like ETFs. There's crowdfunding platforms where you can invest in other people's businesses. Funderbeam is a really popular option inside Estonia. There are things like real estate related things like Estate Guru. I'm probably missing like half a dozen of them. I'll try and put the link and make sure that gets in the recording on YouTube so that you can find our webinar on that as well.
Thank you. Yes, and we also have a few articles on this topic on the e-residency blog as well. So I think if you just like search on our website for like investing with an Estonian company, you'll probably find the blog posts. Okay, so let's finish. A few things before we do. after you close the webinar, you'll get an automatic link to a survey. Please fill out the survey. Please provide feedback. I love all positive and constructive feedback, and we really do take it into account. For example, before this year, we didn't invite e-residents to be co-hosts, but because we had so much demand from webinar participants, we added that this year, and it's been really popular. So we're going to continue that in the new year. Another way that you can ask questions is to check out our subreddit, which my colleague who's sort of behind the scenes here today, Katrina, moderates. She's from our support team, and so she's always making sure that that people get answers to their questions in there. You could also email our support if you think that your question wasn't answered properly today. And if you're ready to apply, if you're not an e-resident yet and you're ready to apply, you can find the apply button very prominently on our website, or you can go to this link here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ian and Luke. Thank you, Liina. Thank you, Ivar. Does anyone have any final thoughts to share before we close?
Happy end of the year.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, happy holidays. And I hope everyone is still mentally strong as we get to New Year's. I did mention in the advertising for this webinar I hope that you all have like a cup of cocoa or something stronger. So I specifically brought this with me to show you. This is an Estonian brand, Vannatal Glögi. Unfortunately, this is non-alcoholic, so I won't be drinking this on its own. But if you're ever in Estonia, at Christmas time, I definitely recommend going to the Christmas markets and trying this glögi because it's delicious. Ivar, did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've been going crazy on the Q&A panel trying to answer everyone, but it's pretty challenging. One of my colleagues was also on the webinar chat trying to answer everyone, but obviously we didn't answer everyone as sufficiently as we should have. But guys, we definitely did our best because I was trying to speak and type at the same time. So thanks everyone, and I hope that you got some good ideas and links from us, and definitely just read everything that the team from e-Residency has done and what our team has done, because I think e-Residency after 9 years has been pretty well documented. So the team has already started covering like the tax cases with some specific countries, and even have tried to make some AI-based like tax like robots to tell you how to pay your taxes. So Estonia is definitely trying to please you as much as we can with our budget.
Thanks, Ivar. And let's give the last word to the e-residents, Ian and Luke.
You go first.
Well, if you have any more questions, I am contracted to help you with them. So feel free to find me on LinkedIn or any other channel that you can happen to find me. I'm usually pretty easy to find with my last name. And I hope that if you are an e-resident, we'll get to meet sometime, because I love meeting new e-residents. I've actually traveled the last couple of months and spent most of my time with e-residents, and it's been wonderful. And happy holidays, and also keep building that business.
Yeah, and basically ditto all of what he said. And then one last thing that we didn't get to talk about earlier is if you ever do want to physically visit Estonia, I know e-Residency is all about the E, but there's also an Estonia behind it, and it's actually a really cool place. And if you want to go, you should totally go in the end of May. There's this kind of like tech startup investor-y future thinking conference called Latitude 59. If you forget the name, just look up Estonia on the map, look at the capital, and figure out how many degrees north it is. It's 59 degrees north. So Latitude 59, really great conference. You'll meet a whole bunch of e-residents. You'll meet a whole bunch of Estonians in the local startup ecosystem, and you might find your next crazy business partner or new idea or something like that there. A lot of fun, highly recommend. And I've actually met almost everyone on this chat in person at that in the past. Mostly that was our first introductions, and that was how I got involved in e-Residency in Estonia. So yeah, highly recommend.
And there's a really good party during the Latitude as well, right, Ian?
A
We
really
can neither
good party.
confirm or deny.
Yeah,
It
it's
extends the
like,
whole
like 5
week.
days long. Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. Definitely come to Latitude. E-Residency will be there. It's our 10th anniversary next year, so expect a lot of cool stuff around it. And you'll get to meet Ian, Luke, and many other e-residents and service providers like Ivar and the team, including our fearless leader, Liina. So happy holidays to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great end of the year, and we'll see you in 2024. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.